While traditional brew days can take hours, this device, the iGulu F1, claims to be able to brew beer with only a couple of minutes effort. I'm seeing if my drinking buddy Norm, who has never brewed a beer before, can whip up his very first beer. Now, this turned out to be a more complicated process than we bargained for. It took 3 batches before we made a drinkable beer. I'll tell you why in a bit. But was the resulting beer any good? Let's find out. This episode is sponsored by Delta Brewing Systems. More on them in a bit. So, Norm, you've been kind enough to sample many of my beers over the years.
I'm that kind of person.
I think it's only fair that I get to try one of yours.
Yeah, I don't brew beer. So,
well, you do today.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to put this iGulu to the test.
Okay.
And you're going to do it all, right?
Okay.
You're going to brew the beer, and 9 days from now, we'll be ready and we can try it.
God, that sounds great. I've never tried to brew a beer before, not even the homebrew kits. Walk me through this. This is going to be interesting.
All right. So the first thing we need to do is to pick which beer we're going to brew. So
Okay.
we've got 3 beer kits here. We'll
Okay.
pick one of them to brew. So we've got a pale ale kit, Bavarian wheat kit,
Okay.
and an amber lager kit.
I enjoy all of these, but I think I'll go with the pale ale.
All right.
Let's do that one.
We're going to brew it in this thing here, right? The water that's in here with all the bubbles, this is sanitizer, this is Star Sands. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dump the sanitizer out.
Okay.
So you want to crack open the beer kit, see what's in there?
Okay, we've got dry malt extract. We've got priming sugar, dry brewing yeast. We've got natural hops aromatic extract. This is Mosaic. And then we've got some natural hops bitter extract -25, whatever that means. And then a nice sticker that we can, I guess, put on our keg when we brew this stuff up.
The sticker is actually an RFID tag. We'll need that in a moment.
Oh, okay.
Start with a clean keg and add purified water up to the 116 ounce mark. Now, when I'm brewing with my brewing system, I'm going to use reverse osmosis water, and then I am going to add water salts into that to get to the water profile that I'm looking for. In this case, we're just using spray water. Right, so step 2 is to drip the hop extract into the water.
Well, I got some on my fingers.
There you go. It's kind of a good idea. This is also just the sanitizer that was in there before. I just have it as a spray. There we go. So I'm just going to give that spread off your fingers.
Okay.
Just give this a spray, just in case there are anything that we don't want on that packet.
Okay.
All right. And then just dump that in. Oh, that's cool. It looks great. Look at that.
Kind of milky.
Yeah. Now this is the Mosaic.
Yep, this is the Mosaic.
Now the interesting part about what we're doing here is this is not the first thing I would do if I'm brewing a beer using all grain. But we are doing this first for some reason with this kit that tells us what to do.
All right, let's see. So sprinkle in the yeast. So that would be this.
Now, we really are living in backwards land here because adding the yeast is the absolute last thing I would do on a brew day.
Do we not need to stir this at all?
No. It says not to stir it, which also blew my mind.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm shocked.
Now, the last step is to add the malt extract.
Dump it straight in? Because it doesn't mention like adding it slowly or anything like that. Okay.
Now, normally if I was adding dry malt extract into my beer, I would do it when the water was hot, probably boiling, and I'd be stirring like crazy because I don't want any lumps.
Oh, I've seen the videos. Yeah. It looks like we have unmade Kool-Aid here because we haven't stirred this up. Let's see. The last thing says seal the fermentation tank, place it in the iGulu.
Not stirring it is crazy, but it does say not to stir it. I think the concern is that if you were just to take like a spoon, stick it in there, you potentially could contaminate it again if you didn't happen to have a spray bottle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that's why that's the case, but it says not to do it, so we'll not do it.
Okay.
This is all Star Stand, so if you grab the lid.
There we go. Put it on there. Snap that down.
Now, what's going to happen is the yeast are going to consume the sugars in here. They are going to create CO2, which will actually carbonate the beer.
Right.
But if we did nothing else at this point, the pressure would start to build in here, and this is pretty thick.
Yeah.
The pressure would start to build in here, and what would happen is the top would just pop off. So we have a clamp. This band clamp. So if you want to do this, it just kind of goes around here and then clips on.
Okay. This goes there.
That's it.
Snaps on. There we go.
So that'll just stop this from
blowing off.
Are we really going to be drinking something that looks like this?
Hey, I don't know.
Well, spoiler alert, we were not, because this didn't work. So I can explain the reason why. Let me show you around the system. So this is the iGulu F1, and out of the box, some minimal assembly is required. This is the main device where the beer will brew, and it's temperature controlled. On the front is a beer tap handle, which you connect with some beer line, and there are various lines and parts that will come in useful depending on what you're serving. But for Norm and I's brew day, we simply needed to connect up the gas and liquid lines using the provided quick disconnects, pop on the lid, then using the provided sticker, hold it up to the RFID logo on the side of the device, which tells the system what it's brewing. There's a screen that shows the fermentation schedule, reporting how many days the beer will be held at a particular temperature. When we were ready to go, we hit brew. So what went wrong? It just wasn't fermenting at the right temperature. One day in, the beer was at 77 Fahrenheit when it should have been in the low 60s. A day later, it was up to 80 Fahrenheit, then 82. And the PSI was nearing 40, which may be the highest amount of pressure I've ever fermented at. After a few days of this, I tried manually putting it in cooling mode, but it just never got cold. Clearly, I had a broken unit. Now, when stuff doesn't work out of the box, it's disappointing, but I get it. Sometimes it happens, and iGulu were great about it, sending me out a replacement unit right away. When that unit arrived, I decided to try again, and this time ran into a different problem, one entirely of my own making. But before we get to that, a quick word on today's sponsor, Delta Brewing Systems. Delta Brewing Systems offers some of the lowest prices on stainless steel brewing gear, like the Firm Tank, which in addition to holding 8 gallons or 30 litres of wort, comes with a domed lid to reduce the chances of a messy blow-off. Plus, it can hold up to 2 psi of pressure for closed transfers. Delta Brewing Systems also has their own line of brew kettles, as well as one of the lowest priced all-in-one electric brewing systems out there, and their prices are shockingly low. If you're in the market for legit stainless gear that won't break the bank, do yourself a favor and head over to deltabrewingsystems.com today. Okay, so for my next attempt, I decided to brew the Bavarian wheat kit. The packet had less stuff in it overall, some DME, 1 packet of hop extract, and a German dry yeast. As an all-grain brewer, it truly is odd to cut out so much of the brew day. No mash, no boil, no chill, no stirring, just dump everything in. But I sure could get used to these 5-minute brew days. Now, scanning in the RFID tag told the system I'd be brewing a Bavarian wheat with 3 temperature settings, an initial 60 Fahrenheit for a day, ramping up to 64 Fahrenheit for 8 days, and then a 2-day cold crash. And this time, temperature control was right on the money. But now I had a new problem. The pressure wasn't going up. CO2 is a byproduct of fermentation, so that gas must be going somewhere, but it wasn't staying in my beer vessel, and I wanted that pressure so I could later serve the beer through the included beer tap. Now, you can add your own source of CO2, so this beer could have been rescued, but what went wrong? Well, this one was entirely human error. The liquid dip tube in the lid was not tightened down properly, so any CO2 generated by fermentation was leaking out into the ambient air. 100% my own silly fault. So look, there was still one more ingredients packet left, an amber lager. So in the interests of having something to serve Norm, I quickly whipped together the ingredients for that. 3rd time lucky. This time, both the temperature settings were correct and pressure was building. A few weeks later, I had a pressure fermented lager ready to serve. So it was time to invite Norm back and see what we thought of this no-boil beer. Okay, Norm, so this isn't the beer you brewed after all, but we got beer. I had to get you beer, so...
And I appreciate it, and just by happenstance, the style is one that I really like.
Yeah, okay.
So I have high hopes.
Okay, so I think we just take a glass and pour it. There's something on here that sort of crimps how fast it's going to come out. Okay.
That seems to be working.
So let's evaluate on our usual criteria, which is first of all on appearance and hey, A+.
Yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect from an amber lager. Describing an amber lager as amber seems a bit redundant, but nevertheless apropos. The head, when we first poured this thing, the head retention was amazing on this. Just really dense.
Yeah. Now, clarity-wise, it's a little cloudy.
It is.
Which you'd expect because this is just sitting on all of the trub that is in the bottom of this fermenter.
Oh, right.
So
right. No filtering at all.
No, there's no filtering.
Yep.
It's just all sat there. So I was careful not to move this for about 24 hours. I just moved this into position yesterday and left it there so everything could settle down.
Right.
So it's not... There's nothing like floating in there or anything like that, but it's not dropped super clear like a lager might with a bit more time.
It's nutty and bready, like you would sort of expect, maybe with a little bit of sweetness. Certainly nothing off-putting in the nose, but nothing to me that really stands out. There's no dominant aroma in it. Are you hoping this is going to be really, really good, or are you hoping this is going to be kind of meh?
Undecided. I don't know. Like, all of these hours I spent brewing the beer, it must count for something, right?
It should.
Well, let's find out.
Okay, let's do that. Ready?
Cheers.
Cheers. I would not be disappointed in the least if I ordered this in a bar. It's got a little bit of a metallic aftertaste. Just a slight metallic aftertaste.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed with this.
Yeah, it has got that. When I first started brewing, I started with extract brewing, which is effectively what this is.
Right.
Just, using dry malt extract and adding it to water. But I would boil
Right.
it and add hops and whatnot, which
Right.
I didn't do here.
Right.
And yeah, that would always have that little twang to it, which I sort of thought was the extract twang, and I'm totally getting that on this as well. I'm just absolutely recognizing this from some of my first beers. That said, I mean, this is a very drinkable amber
Very
lager.
drinkable.
It doesn't have the sort of the crispness from a lager that I might expect. And it also doesn't have a lot of complexity. It tastes quite basic.
Yeah.
If this were blinded and I didn't know how this was made, maybe I would have a different opinion.
Yeah,
but
maybe
to me,
so.
This very much reminds me of some of my earlier beers, which is to say perfectly drinkable, more than happy with them, but not quite at that sort of, top level. This isn't quite your beer,
No.
but it was sort of your beer. And I know you could have made this beer because it really was easy. So we're going to call it yours.
It really was a very easy process.
Yeah.
And it's about all the work I ever want to do to create a beer, because I'm certainly not doing the stuff that you normally do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, cheers.
Cheers.